Hey there, G3XE here. This video is another one talking about the movie Annihilation, which I recently saw. Excellent movie, 10 out of 10. I highly recommend you see it if you're at all interested in sci-fi, eldritch horror type of things. You can see my other video talking about this movie and The Ritual, which draws comparisons between the two and connects them to Lovecraftian horror as a genre. But this video is not about that. This video is about Annihilation as an important movie for recent feminism, I guess. I'm not an expert in feminism, obviously. I just, wanted to note that this movie rocked on a lot of solid points. So Hollywood often has a problem with portraying women, in part this could be because I don't know if it is or to what extent, but like out of all the movies made by the major studios in 2017, about 3% were directed by women, and women work in and around the theater as well. But it's just saying that when you need all different perspectives to make movies that are fully woke, you know what I mean? And this movie rocks on a lot of key points, and I think that people can look back on it and see it as a great note along the ever proceeding march toward like equal treatment and equal opportunity. Anyway, so enough talking about that. Let's talk about why I think this. Well, when I say that Hollywood often has a lot of times trouble in representing women, is that in its worst case, the female characters their one personality trait is that they are the girl, or they are sexualized, right? So their one characteristic notable is that they are sexy, and that's about it, right? Certain movies kind of get past this some of the times, but they will still put in that sexualized facet to that character, which is nothing wrong with that if that's needed by the story, but it's really baffling when it's not needed by the story. And it's even made more apparent by the lack of fully rounded female characters with lots of different, personality traits. This movie was excellent. So on this kind of front, the people who had been sending the government, I guess, who had been sending people into the Shimmer, and there are spoilers in this, by the way, they had only sent in military teams, and because of that, it happened that everyone that they'd send into the Shimmer and who thus had not returned had been males. So part of the reason that this group is all female is that they're wondering if maybe there's a difference between males and females entering the Shimmer and the effects it'll have. Because they're desperate at this point, and so they're like, okay, we're sending these people in. First thing to note, they were all doctors or extremely smart individuals. This is good because there is a large lack of equal representation in the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math industries. And this is probably a very complicated issue, and nothing is black and white. It's all kind of gray. But I think partially it is a result of so human behavior is learned. A huge portion of human behavior is learned socially, and because of modern days, we learn a lot of behavior from movies, TV, social media. That's not to say it's just you see something, you do it. It's just that it confirms norms, and it, I guess, whatever the opposite of confirm is, denies not norms. Anyway, basically, it's saying that if we keep on showing female characters as just that sexualized thing, then it repeats to kids and to teenagers and people maturing and growing up and uh, you know solidifying their personality and their identity, that is what is expected of females, right? And so it's awesome to see that they were all in the science, technology, engineering, math fields, to kind of give those role models. Um, and it wasn't made a big deal like it was, oh, like, they're all super smart. It just briefly mentions it, and it's part of their characters. And that's the other part. That every one of their characters is in depth. They all have had something kind of tragic happen, and some reason that they're going into the shimmer. Uh, there's a dialogue between two of the characters about it when they're kayaking at that one point in the movie. The other cool thing is that uh, the main actress is in the military, but it isn't in the kind of Angelina Jones as Tomb Raider way of she's sexy and dangerous. It was just that she's ex-military, right? And then she became a botanist for the government. And there's this awesome scene with the alligator where she just like, everyone's like, oh shit, this crazy mutated alligator's coming at them. They're firing, but they don't know, one of the guns jams, and she just like puts the mag in, drops down into the shooting position, just like lights up this alligator, like super, like she's been trained, right? And it's just really cool. They don't, they call attention to it only to show that she's had military background training or whatever. It was a little bit of a continuity area, I feel like, because after that, they made a lot of the decisions that I feel like in basic training you would learn not to do in the military, but I think it was more about the screenwriters and story stuff rather than, like, any other reason. Because they start making, like, there's a point where she just drops her bag on the ground and abandons it, and then she never grabs it again, and it's granted toward the end of the movie, but it's like, why? Aren't you at least gonna, like, hide it? Or she drops it on the beach, like, right next to the water, so the tide's gonna, like, soak it in. I'm like, why did you do that? That irked me. But no, that part was cool. And it really, like, all the characters had really interesting traits, really interesting dynamics, and it just was an awesome example of a movie that was just able to have female main characters without either like over sexualizing them or putting in like a male counter to show that like that they inevitably fall in love with. Oh, the final thing I'll mention is that one of her flaws, her character flaws, she had while her husband was away in the military, and because he's special ops or whatever it is, she can't know where he is or when he's coming back, and it had been an extra long period of time, so he's most likely dead. But even before that, she'd begun an affair with her coworker. And, this is treated very seriously. Like, she very much regrets it and tells the person she has an affair with about it. And while the shimmer is kind of messing with their psyche, she's having regrets about it and these kind of visions. But too often in movies, I think when the woman cheats on the guy, she's portrayed very evil. And, I mean, it's just, it would be... in this movie, it wasn't treated like that. It was treated like she's an adult making her own adult decisions. It wasn't like... It didn't feel like it was written by, like, a petulant guy who had been spurned by an ex-lover and was getting revenge by writing this character who's just completely evil and cheats on him. It really felt like a complicated issue that wasn't excusing it, but also was actually looking at, the motivations, what drove it and everything like that. Anyway, if you want to hear my takes on the sci-fi, the cool aspects of this movie, the Lovecraftian horror, check out my other videos. Just wanted to put this put this topic in a separate video because I felt like it was worth noting. By no means am I an expert or an authority on this issue, but I wanted to put my stamp on it and say, this is the type of female characters that people want more of. Thanks.